So the first one, and probably the most easy one to understand of all of them, is Booleans. Booleans have a true or false as a value, and they are defined as a bool, and we're going to start doing that with a sample contract. Just hit create new file over here, and then let's call this example boolean.sol. I'm going to have again an SPDX license identifier and the pragma line. I just copy it over from our sample contract before. And we are calling this example Boolean. Okay, let's define a Boolean and just see what happens. Bool, my bool is nothing. Just define it like this. You see it's still compiling. And if we are going to deploy this contract, well, we cannot do anything with it, because we have, first of all, no function. There is no interface to interact with this smart contract at all. And our Boolean is also not public, meaning Solidity will not automatically create a getter function for it. So if we are making this public, then it's compiling again, we can deploy it again. And then you see over here, we have now a button, my bool, which has the same name as the variable itself. So it's creating a getter function with the same name. And when we hit it, it says false. And the reason for that is that it's not erroring out. In other languages, you would have to initialize the value. But over here, you don't need to initialize the value with anything. It has a default value. And for Boolean, that's false. For integers and unsigned integers, that's 0, and so on and so forth. And we're going to talk about this later on. I'm going to summarize it later on for you. But let's just keep going over here. So we are going to write a setter function, so we can set this Boolean function, set my bool, and then we are having an argument that is also of the type bool. And I just call it the same name with an underscore in this case. Public, it doesn't return anything. And we are setting my bool is my Boolean. So we are overriding that variable. Now let's deploy this again. Initially, let me close the other ones. Actually, let me remove them. It's really not necessary to keep them. Oh, maybe I removed the wrong one. Okay. Now we have a setter function and a getter function. We are calling my bool, then we are setting my bool to true, and then we are calling it again, so it's true now, and then we are setting it to false, and then it's false. Setting it to 1, it's true. Setting it to 0, it's also true, which is a surprise to many of you probably, and the reason is it's actually meant to be written as a false. Otherwise, it will just do a weird kind of conversion between integers and Booleans, and it will end up with a value other than false. It's false again. Okay, there's nothing much more to say to Booleans in our case. You can do negation, logical negation, meaning that when you set this now to true, it will end up being false. Let me move this again here. So when I set this to true, it ends up being false. And the reason is it's going to negate whatever we send over here. You can do logical conjunctions. So true and or something, two Booleans. You can do logical ors or equals or inequality. So that is basically everything you can do with Booleans, and that should be fairly familiar for everyone who has ever done anything in any programming language. Booleans are fairly commonly used across all languages. Okay, with that being said, I think we're heading over to the next example.